Guys, I want you to welcome my special guest, Craig Thumper Samuels. Guys,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for joining Mr. Samuels. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my honor to be here.
Where are you coming from today?
Originally from Omaha, Nebraska, but I reside now in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, Nebraska. Tell me a little bit about Nebraska.
This time of year, it's cold.
Okay, I
Uh,
know what cold is to me, but what is cold is what's cold to you?
on average there, it's in the mid to upper 30s, but we have our days where the wind chills are way below zero. We have our 50 and 60-degree days this time of year. So it balances out in the mid to upper 30s.
Oh wow, wow. Tell me a little bit about Nebraska. Now, I've never been there, never met anyone from there. Tell me about it.
It's we're about 1 million strong, um, right in the heart of the country, right smack dab in the middle of the country. A lot of flat land, really no mountains or tall hills or anything. Um, we have our Nebraska Cornhuskers. I think that's what we're most famous for on the sports side. A lot of dynamite and fantastic musicians from there. Um, it's a great place to grow up and raise kids, and it's really laid back, and not a lot of um, not a lot of highlights, but the highlights that we do have are high. So it's great. I love it there.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. Guys, we have, man, Mr. Samuels, I have to say, I appreciate you, your music. You are coming on today. We're going to talk about your latest release, and we're going to talk about how you started and all those good things.
Thank you. Like I said, it's thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor to be here.
If you are watching right now, you are on YouTube Live, and that's the Candy Show. That's Candy Productions 2, capital C, and the number 2. We have, again, my special guest, Mr. Craig Thumper Samuels. All right, Mr. Samuels. Let's talk about, we're gonna get the real business taken first. You're gonna get that out of the way. You have a new song out, which is a very beautiful song.
Well, thank you.
Magic.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. What's going on with
Magic
Magic? Tell everyone
Magic
about Magic.
it was inspired by its sister song Hope, which is Heal Our Planet Earth, which is the other song that went #1 just before Magic. So it's kind of a double whammy, if you will. I'll start with Hope, if that's okay.
Please do.
Hope was written initially for all the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, the firefighters, the paramedics, everybody that kind of jumped into the hot water, so to speak, when the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. And they all went to battle. They all went to the front lines to face, put their own lives in harm's way to help others that were being impacted by this pandemic. And shortly after it was released, I started to notice that everyday people were coming out of the woodwork, just like the firefighters and the nurses and doctors. So I expanded that dedication pretty much to everybody. And Magic was the result of that, because the way it all happened is what I consider magical. You have strangers coming together, reaching out to other strangers to help them through trials and tribulations due to the pandemic and the snowball effect because of the cause of the pandemic. And like I said, it was just magical. So they kind of, magic and hope kind of go hand in hand. And they both went #1 kind of right after one another, which really surprised me. But it was to that dedication to both of those songs for the people of the planet, really, people of the world, because everybody came out to to help everybody else. Perfect strangers. If they didn't help out in a physical way, they on social media they were offering emotional support. All kinds of way, any way they could help out or reach out, I should say, to help somebody else, they did it. And so both of those songs kind of went hand in hand to as a dedication to everybody who came to the front lines, who reached out to help somebody else.
I've listened to your catalog as far as I can go back, and I have to say that Magic, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, immediately I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome, because of all the different instruments that I hear on Magic. Now, are you playing this? Do you
Yes.
have a band? Tell us
I,
about
I
how Magic came about.
right now I have what I call an invisible band because I am the band. Um, I played all the instruments, all the recordings on all of my recordings. I do all the instrumentation, the writing, the producing, the all of it. You know.
Oh, wow. Oh my
Thank
gosh, did that take years to get that going?
Yes, a lot of years,
Okay,
a lot of years, a
let's
lot
go
of years.
let's go back. Let's go back. What was your inspiration? Who
Um,
or what was your inspiration to get me into the music industry?
I it all started, to be honest with you, it all started when I was in my mom's stomach. I would hear music and I would kick and bounce around and move around, and that's where the name Thumper came from. Because when I
Oh,
was in her stomach, and I heard music, I would just go bonkers and whatnot. So I guess the music, the inspiration is a gift from the man upstairs. I have my grandmother on my dad's side played piano in church, and I have two uncles. One plays the saxophone, the other one plays the piano. But in my immediate family, I'm the only musician.
okay. So music was
So
pretty much all around you
pretty
growing
much,
up.
yes, ma'am. I started about as early as I can remember, was 4 years old, banging on pots and pans and trying to listen for different sounds and stuff like that. But my mom always told me I was going to be her little thumper when I as I grew up. And I didn't like the name at first. I thought it was corny and I got teased sometimes. But as I grew older and grew further into my music abilities, I kind of adapted it, and it kind of all came together at that point.
Now, what was your first musical professional instrument?
Uh, the clarinet, believe it or not,
Nice.
the clarinet, and then I moved to alto and tenor saxophone, and then I moved to bass, and I don't remember which order, if it was piano first and then guitar first, then piano, and picked up the drums and percussion and all that kind of stuff. So it's a blur now. I just play them all and put them all together to make one sound, which is what I call the ozone sound because it was originated in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, my question that I have that I really want to know is, which is your favorite instrument to play?
I really don't have one anymore because I appreciate them all in different ways. Each one of them does one thing that the rest don't do. And when you put them all together, um, put all the ingredients in the pot, and then you come out with your masterpiece, it's because of all of them together, not just one. So
Okay.
I get that question a lot. So, but
Especially
yeah,
for,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, especially for someone who has the talent to play that many instruments. How many instruments do you play total?
I quit counting at 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
After that, I just quit counting.
Oh, wow. Now, my first instrument was a violin. Well, no,
Okay.
take that. Let me take that back. The flutophone. Do you know? Okay. No, it's the instrument that you play in school.
The flute?
Well, it was more plastic
Oh,
flutophone.
they call it a recorder.
Recorded everything. Go.
Yeah, yeah.
I could have sworn it was flutophone or something really weird like that, but you're right. It's the recorder. I think pretty much everybody who took music had to play that one, but
Oh, yeah.
the violin was really something that I had to play after that, but it was really hard for me to do just because I couldn't hold it against my neck.
Yeah.
But it was so, it's a beautiful instrument. And so when I hear a lot of your catalog, I hear all the different strings, all the different pianos, all the different, especially string, because
Hmm.
you have the guitar, bass guitar, those are pretty much your lead strings, and then your piano, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I use a lot of orchestral um, compositions too. I mix some violins. I don't play a lot of violin, but I do because I play so much guitar. Um, I do play upright bass as well. So anything I can get my hands on, pretty much. I don't mess with a lot of brass. I don't do trumpets and trombones or tubas or anything like that. I just never had the armature for that. So I dealt more with the woodwinds than the than the brass.
Interesting. And I'm
But
glad you just mentioned orchestra because when I listen to your catalog, that is really what I hear. And the first thing that I was thinking of, and I have to tell you, the one orchestra song that I grew up on was actually the Barry White Love's Theme, I believe. Do you
oh yeah,
remember that?
oh yeah.
Oh, that was, man, I am so in love with that song. And so growing up on that type of era of music, I have a love and I can hear, especially with your talent and your catalog, I can hear all the different instruments and it reminds me of an orchestra.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I grew up in that era as well, like the '70s and the late '60s and all the way through the '80s, just listening to all different kinds of music, from the heavy metal all the way to the gospel, to the classical, to the country, even some reggae, all of it. And that's where I would say kind of where the ozone sound was created, because I grab something out of every genre that I hear, and I try to incorporate, if it's even just a little piece of one of those genres, into a piece of my music, and maybe a different piece in another composition or something like that. It's just kind of mixing it all together and creating a sound which I believe, in my honest opinion, that many people don't do anymore. You know,
They
because
don't.
music nowadays is a lot different than the music in the '70s and the '80s. And
Yes.
a lot of times I try to even reach back to those eras to bring something of that flavor into today's music.
I have to tell you, at the end of the day, while a lot of electronical machines have replaced live music, that's still where it starts. That's still the core. And for me, I love live music.
Oh yeah,
I love live music. There's nothing you know, nothing like live
nothing better.
music. It just
That's
puts you in a
right.
different mode.
Uh-huh.
It just puts you in a different mode. Now, when you started, tell me about Omaha and the music scene there.
Uh, as I grew into the performance side of it, um, again, I have two uncles that played. Um, the one that played the saxophone, believe it or not, I have never heard him play, but I have heard bands that he's been with, and people that talk about these bands, and and how prominent he was as a saxophone player in those bands. And going listening to some of Omaha's history, some of the bands that he and my other uncle plays the piano, and I've heard him play, and he could outplay me on wits end. It was amazing how this man is, how talented this man was. But the music scene growing up as I was growing up was kind of close knit. We had 4 or 5 bands, and the bands did those 4 or 5 bands kind of did everything. You know, each band was playing at a different place each week, and we kind of mixed it up. And then as I grew older, things started to expand. You know, because Omaha was growing at the time as well. So other musicians would come in. Other musicians were their talents were emerging, kind of like mine and everybody else's that we, in that era. And we all just kind of expanded from there. And, as we expanded, then, the club owners and the venues increased because of the size of the musicianship, excuse me. As that grew, then we kind of outgrew the limited amount of clubs and places we could play. So they started growing. And it kind of expanded from there.
Now, you just said earlier you're a one-man band.
Not by choice.
Okay.
Not by choice.
I have to hear about that.
I would love, I've played in bands in Omaha. I've created a couple of my own bands in Omaha. But as time and people grow, musicians change directions. They get married, they move out of state, decide they don't want to play anymore, or this or that, or this or that. And when I was growing up, I couldn't play all of these instruments. And in 1991, I built my first recording studio, and I started writing my own music. Before then, I was just kind of playing cover tunes in bands and things of that nature. But as I started writing and composing, when I couldn't play, say I couldn't play guitar, for instance, I would bring in, ask a guitar player, can you play this part on this song for me? And 9 times out of 10, they wanted to play the part I gave them their way. I don't think it should go like that. I think it should go like this. But I wanted you to play it like I gave it to you. And it just kind of, through time, different musicians, it all fell apart. So I said, it's easier for me just to learn how to play all this stuff so I can do it myself. I can do it the way I want to do it. It'll come out the way I want it to come out. And if it's, if it's garbage, then it's my fault, so to speak. And that's kind of how I developed the one-man band theory. I think James Brown had a lyric that said, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself. I think that was James Brown. I might be wrong. But I kind of took that in as to say, well, if you can't do it the way I want you to do it, then I'll do it myself. And over time, it's worked out. But again, I would love to play with other bands. Even here in LA, I reached out to a few musicians here to do some collaborations and things like that, but they didn't work out. So I couldn't let that stop me. So I just do it myself.
I heard that saying called, if I want to do it, if I want to do it right, I have to do it myself. And that's unfortunate because, again, in this industry, you have to find people who are on the same page, who have the same dedication. And when it comes to, especially when it comes to your craft, your talent, especially music, you want to make sure that everybody comes to rehearsals, everybody pulls their weight.
Exactly.
I myself know all about that because I was part of a band a few years ago, and was my first. Now, I never played, but I had involvement in the entire project, and I never saw that whole piece of it played out in real time. Whereas I've done shows, but I've been on other parts. So I've never been in part of a band. And I realized that, yes, it takes everybody to come together to do their part. Because
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
have a gig and it's like, okay, you practice, but then at some point, if someone gets sick, then it's a done deal. What can you
Right.
do? What can you
Right.
do? What can you
Yeah.
do? So that I understand how all of that works, and it's amazing that you're doing all of it by yourself. Tell me about the process when you're writing your music, when you're creating. Tell me about the creation process.
It's mainly driven from either inspiration or hardship from either something I've seen, something I've heard about, or something I've experienced, be good or bad. Um, I find stories. I get messages and emails from people that kind of tell me what's going on in their life, or good or bad. And it's kind of like, writing a movie. You get an idea, and then you start to put, pen to paper or hand to keyboard, so to speak. Um, and you try to write something or create something to be able to help them either come out of a hardship or a misfortune, or to help them celebrate something positive uh, that they've done or accomplished. So as far as the writing, the composition part of it, sometimes I'll start with lyrics with no music. Sometimes I'll start with music with no lyrics, and I'll put the two together. Um, and then sometimes I'll start on a piano if it's a ballad, or guitar. And then other times I'll start with drums and bass. This depends on the feel or the idea behind the concept that I want to create.
What's the longest it's taken you to create an entire song?
3 years so far.
Wow, why so long? Tell me. Wow.
It's I sometimes I'll write in pieces. I'll wake up, in the middle of the night with the idea, and I'll get my cell phone out and I'll email something to myself and then go back to sleep or whatever. And then sometimes, on the flip side of that, before I go any further, the flip side of that, the shortest time I've written an entire song was 20 minutes. So it just depends on, sometimes you find things that, I'll give you an example. If you put too much salt in something, you don't like it, you go back and start over. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll write a little bit, and then I'll get what they call writer's block. And then 3 months later, I'll write something else and say, well, this would fit with that, or this will fit with that. And then kind of like putting puzzle pieces together. And I don't rush things, because when you rush something, it never comes out the way you want. So I'll put, if you're trying to raise $1, you'll put 10 cents in a jar at a time, whenever you have it. So whenever a concept comes to mind, I'll put that in the drawer with the archive for that piece of music that I'm working on. I have another song called 1,000 Hearts, or 100 Hearts, I'm saying. And I'm slowly building that. But so far I've got is 100 hearts 1,000 times a day. I can't think, to say I love you, there's no better way. And that's it. That's all I have for that. So I put that in the drawer, and when the next piece of that comes to mind, then I'll just build on that until it's a complete project. And then I'll start working on music for it.
And you write all your songs?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And are you putting this out independently?
Yes, ma'am. I am an independent artist. Yeah, everything's on CD Baby, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, iTunes. You name it. If you Google Thumper and Generation One, you'll get about 6 pages of me that kind of direct you to some site where my music is. Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now, I have listened to, like I said, your catalog, and I have to, this is where I get a little confused
Okay.
because you're not titled as a jazz musician. However, what I've heard would usually be typically called jazz music.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying specific jazz and that's it because you've done covers, but then when I say jazz, to me it's all instrumental. So I'm wondering, why is it that you do not call yourself a jazz musician?
I'm predominantly a jazz musician. Most of my uh, titles and catalogs and features feature me as a jazz musician. Um, and if you know of one that doesn't, I'm kind of a multi-genre person as well. And my son asked me that same question. He said, "Well, if you do, you say you're multi-genre, but all you have is jazz. Why are you multi-genre?" I said, "You know what? That makes a good point." So in 2022, when I come out, I'm going to start writing a lot more music in other genres. So I can be more than a multi-instrumentalist. I can be a multi-genrelist, if that's the right word. Um, but I
Create a new
felt
word.
that doing doing a lot of jazz and instrumental music, I should say, gives the listener the idea or the concept, if you will, to create their own story or their own lyrics behind the inspiration that the music gives them. So I could write one piece of music and somebody might say it's a sad piece of music that'll help them through, or it could be a sexy wine and dine piece of music that will help them through. But I also write lyrics and stuff to help tell stories kind of from a different angle, so to speak.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because you said that you write lyrics.
Mhm.
How do you, but I don't hear, like, there's very seldom some of your songs actually have maybe a little bit of a chorus in it. But how do you, how do you write lyrics to a jazz instrumental?
Well, it what makes it a jazz instrumental is the lack of I could take one piece of music and take out the lead guitar or the piano and put lyrics in it, and it would completely change the genre, if that makes sense. And that's the kind of music that I try to write to surprise people when I'm on stage. I've got several songs that I've written that I could go either way. I have lyrics, like I said, I have lyrics I don't have music to. I have music I don't have lyrics to. Or if I could take out the guitar part and put a piano part in there, and it would give a whole different feel to the same foundation of the track. So I'm kind of a surprise, element of surprise type of person, type of guy, I guess you could say. Because I do so many different instruments. And on in one concert, I may play piano on this song. Another concert, I may play guitar on that same song. So I try to mix it up as to I'm not so mechanical or repetitious. Um, and that's one thing I think, again, in my honest opinion, separates me from other musicians that are out there. You don't see a lot of. There are a few, but you don't see a lot of people playing, guitar, piano, saxophone, and bass in the same concert. And that's one thing that I like to do, or sing for that matter. That's one thing that I like to do, is to break up the monotony of just, and don't take this the wrong way, and I don't want my listeners to take this the wrong way, but some instrumentalists play the saxophone through the whole concert, which is great. I mean, there's some amazing saxophone players from the top of the scale to the bottom. But what I try to do in my concerts is mix it up. You know, I'll come out with a bass, play lead bass on one like a Wayman Tisdale or something like that. And then on the next song, I might play piano like a Brian Culbertson or play guitar like a George Benson, all in the same concert. So it's you kind of get a smorgasbord, so to speak.
And actually, you know, I like that concept. I like exactly what you're saying. It breaks up the monotony of, okay, well, I know he's not going to do anything other than just play this instrument. So for me, again, I like to look and listen to live performances. So being able to shift back and forth between different instruments is, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing.
Well, thank you.
And how many albums do you have out?
14.
Wow.
14. Yeah, 14. I had to stop and think about it. I'm working on my first live CD, which will be out in 2022, as well as 2 other studio CDs that I'm working on as well. Okay. So I try to stay as busy as I can. I work with other artists, but I am dying to get back on stage. You know, COVID kind of messed me up in the sense that I missed the stage, but it also gave me a lot of time to write and reflect. I did a few live streams as well, but it gave me a lot of time to write and reflect on, like I said, hope and magic were results of you know, being confined, so to speak, to TV and social media. So, but yeah, I definitely missed the stage.
Well, I tell you what, I'm right there with you. I miss going and I miss people being on there. So
Right.
music makes the world go around no matter what
Yeah.
time of your life, whether good, bad, ugly, sad, happy, joyous, um, undetermined, you know,
Oh, yeah.
all of that. Music is just such a relief for a lot of people. It's good for your heart, it's good for your soul.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Okay, I have to ask this question. Why is it that when you listen to jazz music, you guys kind of get away with a long, extended version of a song? 8, 10 minutes, 7 minutes. Now your average song is 2 to 3 minutes. So why is it that you guys get away with such a lengthy song?
I guess that's actually a good question. I think once the music grabs you, you don't want to let go because it brings about a feeling that most people, like I said, they interpret their own story into this piece of music. And a lot of times they don't want to let it go. You know, like hearing your favorite song, you play it over and over and over. And even though it's repetitious, that feeling that you get, you know, it reaches out and just grabs you and you don't want to let go. And then on from a live standpoint, it's not only the audio, but it's the feeling and the interaction that the artist gives and gets from the audience. And if it, like I said, if it's good, they don't want to let go of a good thing. And one artist said that, never let go of a good thing or something like that. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but you know, when you got a good thing, you don't want to let, you know, even in a relationship, if you get a good woman or a good man, you don't want to let go. You do not want to let go.
No, you don't. But you know, I also wanted to ask the question about jazz music in itself. To me, in my opinion, jazz music is so versatile. You can elevator, weddings,
Yeah.
even when
Grocery
there's an
store.
exactly. You can even see, and jazz music is used commercial, you know, on TV. Jazz music is just so versatile and you can use it everywhere.
Right.
You know, do
And it's
you agree with
also,
that?
I was going to say, yeah, and you can't date it. you could listen to, a George Benson piece from the early 70s, and it hits you the same way now that it did back then. Whereas some songs with lyrics, you kind of have to go back to or reminisce or remember what was going on back then when that song came out. Whereas, like you said, my catalog, I've got stuff from the early 90s, the late 80s even, that if you listen to it now, you wouldn't know if I did it yesterday or what, 20, 30, 20 years ago.
Now let's talk about your catalog. Okay, now you play your titles. Okay, it seems to me that you take great pride in your title songs, your songs.
Yes, ma'am. Those are like my children.
I have to tell you, how long does it normally take you to come up with the titles? And do you come up with the titles of the song before you create your song or after? Or even during?
It depends, both, or all three, I should say, before, during, and after. I'll have a concept in my head, and then once it's done, I might get an email or see something on TV that would where you can connect the two. And then sometimes there's 1, 2, 3. I think there's about 6 titles and covers that I have that I don't even have music for yet. And so it just is whatever comes to mind. It's created in so many different ways. It's you can't put a limit on it, because like I said, you can't limit perfection, and you can't rush perfection. And I strive. I'm nowhere near perfect. None of my music is anywhere near perfect, but I do the best I can. And from my fans and friends and yourself and other people that I've had interviews with, and listening to them and their fan base, I seem to be doing okay.
Now, just for those who don't know, and this is just their first time hearing and seeing who you are, I've picked out a few titles that just caught my my eye before I even listened to them. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Bluesberry Jam. Like that one. Yeah. Chicken Pickin'.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Single and Lonely.
Okay.
Midas Touch. And one more. Oral Sex. I said, wait a minute. Did he try to be nice and not spell the word? But I had to listen and understand. See, sometimes those titles will catch you and you would think something. But I realized that you, in my opinion, my assumption is for that song, you were making love with your 6th string.
Very much so. Very much so. And the titles are designed and created to make you do a double take, so to speak. My 3rd CD was called Six Education. And I got the concept and this was one of those instances where the music was written and I didn't have a title. And I was a guitar teacher for 10 years at a local college in Omaha. And a student asked me to hear some of my work. And at that time I had just finished it and told them I didn't have a title because I played it for the entire class. And I didn't have a title for it. And they liked it. Well, what do you call that? I said, well, I don't have a title for it. And one guy said, well, why don't you call it Six Education? And I did a double take. Huh? What? Because I wanted to make sure I heard what I heard. And it was a great idea because I was a guitar teacher. I was teaching, guitar. and I put the concept together, and to this day, that's one of my best-selling CDs, and that was my third one. So that was 1990. Shoot, I don't even remember when I did it. It was a long time ago. 1994, I believe.
Wow. Wow.
And like I said, still to this day, that's one of my best-selling CDs.
And we're going to talk about that. Now, if I'm, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard in your catalog up until now, it seems like the guitar was your upfront instrument. So that seems like how your music was going, to where the piano or any strings were your secondary piece. So when I say that, the first thing I hear that's just so powerful and upfront is the string, is your guitar. Versus
Correct.
what I'm hearing now, I'm hearing as time went on, you brought in more strings and dropped your, excuse me, well, and I mean piano, more of the piano, and dropped your bass or your guitar in the back. But now, even with Magic, I hear both, but at the same time, I hear the piano work more up front.
Right.
So I'm correct at hearing that, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that as I grew, I expanded on, kind of like what my son said, as far as being a jazz musician or being a multi-genre musician, but only having jazz. So for a long time, I was a jazz guitarist. And then up until 2 years ago, I think, I started adding more piano just to expand the versatility. And the bass was always in the background. I've got two songs that feature lead bass. But again, as we go into 22, I want to expand on that more as well. But yeah, I was, always on the guitar. One, because when I played on stage, it was the easiest to carry. I didn't want to have to carry a Fender Rhodes and 3 keyboards and all that kind of stuff. Every time I went and played a concert, I'd grab my guitar and go because it was easy. But like I said, as I grew, up until about 2 years ago, I decided, well, if I'm going to be a multi-instrumentalist, I'm going to be a multi-instrumentalist. So, I want to get me another saxophone, hopefully in 2022, and I want to start playing some saxophone as well. I want to pick that back up too.
Can you name 3 the jazz legends that you like to listen to?
Ooh, just 3? There's so many. Good
All
Lord.
right. You can name 5.
Oh, like 5?
Yes, gotta, because there are so many.
Yeah. Does instrument matter?
No.
George Benson. God, there's so many. Wes Montgomery. Charlie Parker. From that era, and then I've met so many as I became more prominent. Peter White, Steve Cole, Steve Oliver, Richard Elliott, Norman Brown. Good God, there's so many. It's hard to pick. Me, I'm.
And now see, this is the thing. We can add you to those, because from Omaha, a lot of people didn't know who you were, and now they know who you are.
Yeah.
And I've never met anybody from Omaha, so now I know who you are. I loved another song, and I gotta throw this out here. Thumpology 101.
Uh-huh.
I love that. I love that. Now tell me a little bit about because just so those who are not familiar with your music, I really like that. To me, that seems like that's an intro song to your set.
It is. It's kind of and most people might assume this as me being arrogant, but it's nowhere near that. It's kind of like you said, it's kind of an introduction of, this is who I am. Let me show you what I can do. This is how I do it, so to speak. And the concept was a teaching concept. Not arrogantly speaking, but there are a lot of musicians that want me to help them, and I look out to those better than me and those that are still learning what I've learned. And everybody can teach everybody something if they're willing to learn. And be quite honest with you, there are some musicians that think they know everything and you can't tell them nothing. You may have experienced this, you may know somebody, but I'm not like that. I always try to help anybody that asks me for help. I'll play with anybody that wants to play, collaborate, share the stage, whatever. But I always try to learn what I can from them as well. So the Thumpology 101 was just kind of this is where I am now, and I want to show it to you. And it was kind of not arrogant, but confident, so to speak.
But it seems like every artist has one of those types of songs where they want to put their stamp on and let them know how talented they are. Not being arrogant, but you got to have your own hype song. And I think Thumpology, to me, Thumpology 101 is like a very good hype song.
Oh, thank you. My favorite is called the Smooth Groove.
I was going to ask you about that. Tell me what's going on with that song.
That's my signature song, so to speak. I always end every show with that because it gets people up, and they can, when the concert's over, I'll say, well, the clock on the wall says that's all, but the clock on the stove says I got time for one more. So with that, I did that with Bluesberry Jam when I was in Salt Lake City, I believe, but that was just kind of a jam session. But the Smooth Groove was more organized and composed to get the people up, say my thank yous, my goodbye, and they can groove on the way out the door. And that's one that always sticks because of the horn lines. That's one that always sticks in people's minds as they're going out the door. So
there is another song that I really think is really beautiful, and it really fits to what's going on today. And we're going to get back to magic in a little bit, but Love for Tomorrow is Not Promised. That is such a beautiful song.
Thank you very much. That's there's a message in that, and it's kind of, that's the title track of my 11th CD, 11 or 12. I got so many I can't remember. But it's just a message that, and that's basically comes from people's stories. I haven't talked to my mom in 10 years. I haven't talked to my dad or my brother in 4 years. We fell out and he passed away, and I didn't get a chance to say, I'm sorry, I love you or whatever. So I try to incorporate that. Tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. And so if you have a beef with somebody, let it go. Life is too short, and you may have a beef and y'all fall out. And like I said, in some of these stories, somebody passed away, and well, I didn't get to say I'm sorry. I didn't get to say goodbye, or so take that, and turn it around, because like I said, tomorrow, love, but tomorrow ain't promised. There's I've got a new song I just started on yesterday called Flow, Flow, and it stands for Favor Love Over War. And it's kind of developed like Hope, which is Heal Our Planet Earth. And I've also got a new release called TKO, which is coming out in January, and that's Transfer Kindness to Others. And a lot of these metaphors, if that's the correct word, resonate with people. and it makes sense and it makes people think. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get across.
And you know what? And that goes back to the creativity in your titles, and you're putting not just one word title. Each letter means something.
Mm-hmm.
That says that you are, in my opinion, that you take your work seriously, that
Oh
you
yeah,
put a lot of work in it. So there's not only just a song, but there's a message behind a song.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That's what I try to do because, like I said, even though the title is there, each person, especially on the instrumental side, can interpret that title however they feel they need to feel better or celebrate, depending on their situation. Um, the way that piece of music can help them, and when people understand the meaning behind something, um, it helps inspire them to, excuse me, inspire them to do better.
You
And that's what
mentioned
I try to do.
you mentioned covers.
Mhm.
Again, going through your catalog, I've noticed that you've covered some songs. Now, I've noticed that you've covered Janet Jackson.
That's
I've
my
noticed.
future. That's my future wife, but she don't know it yet.
Oh my gosh. I love Janet Jackson. Y'all, nobody can tell me about her.
Mhm.
I have something going on in my head with Janet Jackson. I used to always, and I still do, I ain't even gonna lie. I've always wanted to be Janet Jackson's background singer, a background dancer. So I don't know, maybe one
Well,
day.
if she and I get married, I'll plug you in.
But I also noticed that you covered, and for those who know me, I have a favorite group that I grew up on. You covered some New Edition.
Mhm.
I've never heard a jazz instrumentalist cover New Edition. Can You Stand the Rain?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Tell me, why did you choose that song?
There were a lot of different reasons. Part of it was the message in the original. Um, I believe it was written by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. No. I'm sorry. That's the other one. I can't remember who wrote that now. Um, but yeah, it was the message, and it was just the concept that hit me. And I mean, it just felt good. Um, and it was a song. It was a #1 hit, I believe. I don't know if was it New Edition or Johnny Gill. I know Johnny
Well,
Gill.
you did both of them. Actually, you did Can You Stand the Rain by New Edition, and you covered My by
Right,
Johnny
right,
Gill.
yeah. So yeah, I just try to. Um, one thing I try to do is grab a song that other people can relate to or other people know. So when I do my live performances, they can sing along. That's one aspect, but and everybody knows, your hits. Uh, 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 um, Bob Marley, I did I Shot the Sheriff. I
Yes.
did the Bee Gees. Um,
Now, which BG song?
Too Much Heaven.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Al Jarreau. Um, I just finished Roberta Flack's "Feel Like Making Love." If you haven't heard that yet,
Oh, no,
um,
I haven't.
it's I got um, man, I got "Good Times" by Chic.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I've done. I try, like I said, I try to do some covers because, like I said, I want people um, to kind of
Be
reminisce or
familiar.
reflect, so to speak, when they go back, when they hear that. But I try to do it my way so they can combine the two.
We're going to go back to Magic. The first time I heard Magic, what I liked about Magic was how you teased us with that piano, you know? And I immediately, I've listened, and I'm not for sure. Are you familiar with Paul Hardcastle?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So I immediately started hearing Return of the Rain Man with that song, with Magic. And that is what made me pull myself into Magic
Mhm.
because of the somewhat similarity of what I heard on the Paul Hardcastle. So, just for those who don't know, I listen to a lot of different music.
Right. Right.
And I usually listen to and I hear things, and a lot of times it's that familiarity, and I never
Mhm.
say it right. But again, that is what pulled me into Magic, the how you teased us.
Mhm.
I mean, you were teasing. I'm just gonna say that. It's beautiful, it's sexy, it's soft, it's just everything that you want in a jazz, but more so sexy version.
I try to be. Yeah. What I try to do is get your attention. And once I get your attention, I want to keep it. And you mentioned the length. Once you have it, you hold on to it. You don't want to let it go. So,
Exactly.
some people could listen to that. I had one friend from Germany, I think. He's got it on repeat, so it doesn't stop, and he'll play it for 20, 30 minutes at a time,
Oh, wow.
just like on a loop. And so I'm like, okay, I got your attention. That's all I wanted to do.
Man. Now, you mentioned earlier about the projects that you have coming up. So, while we're working to wrap this up, I know that you said you had an announcement.
Yes, ma'am. A very good friend of mine named Debbie Burke. She's an author and a writer, and she's got a book coming out in about 2 weeks. It's called Tasty Jazz Jams for Our Times, Volume 2. And I'm going to be featured in it.
Oh, wow.
And thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you very much. And this is another unexpected milestone. I never thought that I would be, featured in a book. I've been on TV, I've been in movies, and all over the radio, but this is a different realm or avenue that I did not expect to be a part of. And it's so great. I'm so honored
Mm.
um, that I was able to, get her attention for that matter, uh, and for her to invite me to be a part of her book. And I am so honored to be there.
That is amazing. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Guys, he has a website. Tell us what the website is.
Thumpinhard.com, THUMPINHARD.com, for a pound of the ozone sound.
I like that. I like that. And tell everyone, how can they download your music and
Again,
follow
yeah,
you?
I'm on. If you Google Thumper and Generation One, and it's the ampersand, not the word and, you'll get about 6 pages of me. I'm on iTunes. I'm on Amazon. Uh, my website, of course, Spotify, uh, Google Play. I'm on Music Choice, um, and a friend of mine and I are working to get on Sirius XM watercolors.
Wow.
I'm working on that. Um, I'm everywhere. Yeah, just Google Thumper and Generation One, and you'll find me. You'll find me. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I don't have a TikTok account yet. I need to build one, but I haven't yet. Um, Again, I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere.
Oh man, I tell you what, guys, make sure you go to Thumping Hard. I've seen the website. You have some things on there. I know you talk about a nonprofit
I have
organization.
two
Okay.
nonprofits that I'm trying to build.
Okay.
One's called Jada, which is Jazz Against Domestic Abuse. And the other one is called Our Stars of Tomorrow. And really quick, Our Stars of Tomorrow is the initial concept is where I write one song every year, and all the money that I raise from that song goes to high school seniors for scholarships who otherwise don't qualify for scholarships, to help them get into their first year of college. And Jada is kind of a domestic abuse awareness program where I'll play concerts in a certain city, and the part of the proceeds from that concert will go towards domestic abuse awareness, homeless shelters, to build homeless shelters, and help people get out of domestic situations that they otherwise wouldn't be able to get out of.
Oh wow, that is amazing. We definitely, that's the one thing that I miss during this worldly situation, is that I would go and volunteer my time at the homeless shelters, the women's and children's homeless shelters, once a month. But with COVID and everything, I obviously had to
Oh
stop
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
that's a great cause. That is a great
I
cause.
used to do back when I was in Omaha. I used to do concerts for an organization called the Child Saving Institute, and these were children from battered homes, children who were abandoned, children who were pretty much given up on. And it was kind of I did concerts and in cooperation with clowns and stuff for the younger kids, but just to put on music concerts for just to be doing it. So I'll try to give back to the community as much as I can.
It's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. However you
Yeah.
can, you should want to give back. Mr. Craig Thumper Samuels, is there anything that we missed today that you'd like to make sure that everyone knows about?
Not that I can think of. I think we covered pretty much everything. 2022 is going to be really big. Again, with the I've got some new music coming out. I'm looking very, very sharply and prominently to get back on stage. I work with an agency called the Kenneth Carroll Agency in Atlanta, and Pete Sidney Productions, and they're working on some stuff for me for concerts. So hopefully I'll be doing some touring this year or next year. And so yeah, if you see me out or hear me here, I'm going to be somewhere. Come out and say hi. I'd love to see you guys, and you too.
Well,
So
you
I'm
just,
happy.
man, I'm telling you what. I'm Lord willing, I'm going to be everywhere I can be in 2022.
I know that's right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely want to give a special shout out though to Keeping It Real Radio on the Rise. That's
Oh, Miss
actually,
Janice. I forgot
yes,
about Miss Janice. Hey, Miss Janice.
yes. I want to make sure I gave a shout out to her because that's initially where I learned about you.
Yeah,
And
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, I just want to make sure I give her a shout out because she's definitely a great supporter of the Candy Show. So, guys, make sure you go follow her and check her platform out. She's got some talent coming up,
Yes,
and
she does.
she
Matter of fact,
always.
I was her very first. The interview that you were a part of was my second interview, and my very first interview, I was the first artist on her new show, the
Awesome.
very first, and that's always going to be a heartfelt milestone for me. So, thank you very much, Miss Janice.
We have to start somewhere.
Exactly.
And it's people like us that are willing to give that extended hand out. And so, you just never know. You never know where your next opportunity comes from. So you must always, always thank those who have helped you along the
Oh
way.
yeah.
That's just what I believe. No, some people don't do that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do. I do.
And one thing I would say really quick is not only should you be thankful, but you should be willing to share, your experiences, your knowledge, because you can't take it with you.
Yeah.
So you just will, pass it along, to help somebody else. And that's one thing that I've always done is always try to help other people in some way, shape, or form, anybody I can.
We all didn't just come up out of here just born stars,
Right.
or born whatever it is that your talent was or is, and it's made you success
Hmm.
story. So I just thank you so much, Mr. Craig Thumper
Oh, of course.
Samuels,
Thank you for having
for
me. Again, it's an honor.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to come in and share my experience with the first Nebraskan. Is that how you say it? Nebraskan?
Nebraska. Yeah.
Nebraska
Uh-huh.
that I've never seen, never heard of. But then I appreciate you and your willingness to just, like I said, share this conversation, because I love music and I love hearing about people's come ups and backstories and how they first
Oh,
started.
sure.
So I just love
Well,
all of
again,
that.
thank you. Thank you for having me. If you're ever in Nebraska, take some time and visit. You'll really like it there.
Well, I
Um,
don't know if I'm going to be going anytime soon,
well,
but
it'll be there.
I'll
Yeah.
try.
But yeah, if you we I believe we still have the number one zoo in the country as far as population goes.
Ooh,
Um, so yeah, if you get a chance, it's really lovely. It's really beautiful.
definitely
Uh,
will do that.
so yeah, if you ever get a chance to visit Nebraska, please do. Yeah, you'll love it. I guarantee it.
I definitely will. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Candy Show. You know who I am. I'm Candy. Guys, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button on the YouTube channel, Candy Productions 2, capital C, and the number 2. Guys, thank you so much. Make sure you follow Mr. Craig Thumper Samuels. And guys, stay tuned, because I don't know what's coming up, and neither do you. All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks again.